major, ladies and gentlemen. We have one final matchup remaining for you today. As we discussed previously, it is going to involve FURIA, but as well, it will involve another one of their Latin American compatriots. That's a good word to use there. Team Liquid is going to be on the other side of this one after taking their own victory earlier today against CAG 7-2 on Kafe.
Yeah, pretty dominant performance by them as well. But you could say the same about TL's previous matchup against FURIA earlier this year, where they actually ended up going to Chalet and winning in 7-4 fashion. And not only that, but PSK with a heater of a game, 1.41 rating, backed up by resets with a 1.24.
Interesting you say that, because he actually ended up with the worst stats inside of the matchup earlier today. I mean, to be fair, not like that bad, just a -1 at the end of the day. Every other player on the team, however, was positive. So a very, very good run from Team Liquid to start their day off over on Kafe. We'll have to see if they'll be prepared to face off against FURIA in another inter-regional matchup here. Talking more about Liquid, we've already mentioned it a few times, folks, but this is the team that a lot of people are saying are going to take this major. They are primed to take the crown here. They're already halfway up the staircase. They just need to make their way up to the top of it. Still testing, of course, if that is going to be the case. If their first match is any indication, it's looking like that could certainly be true, but we still have a long group stage to go, and the playoffs, of course, so a long, long road still for Team Liquid to try and indeed fulfill that prophecy.
Yes, indeed. And I, as well as a lot of you at home, more than likely massive advocates for this team and have been for a very long time, including that man with the blonde hair down there sitting in the chair right now, Nesk, as we get everybody else on board. PSK will walk back in. Palu already sat down and reset and asked, already ready. And we're through the map ban phase already, folks. Kafe going to be selected yet again here today for Team Liquid. They've got to be so ecstatic about that.
Yeah, they've already run it earlier today.
Exactly.
They've had a bit of time off. They're probably pretty refreshed right now, and more than likely have already kind of done a little post-wrap-up of that game and have taken notes about anything that was going wrong. And that one did still lose 2 rounds. There's still quite a few things they could probably extrapolate from that, and they're going to come fresh, ready to play it off. Alternatively, FURIA, of course, possibly able to capitalize on those mistakes if they were able to watch that matchup earlier, as these are the only 2 games they played today. Just the previous one they finished just now, and this one coming up here. So maybe FURIA thinks that there's a weakness brewing for Team Liquid that they can abuse. Either way, we're going to find out momentarily, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going live. Like we said before, it's the last matchup of the day. A LATAM derby here between FURIA and Team Liquid. Who will top it out? Let's find out.
Help us out, ladies and gentlemen. Give us your energy, as it's getting a little late here on the East Coast, and probably pretty late for you, depending on where you are across this beautiful world. But luckily enough, you got some Kafe to at least get you by for the next hour. So please stick with us as we cover this LATAM throwdown between FURIA and Liquid.
All right, bad news. I lied.
You did lie, but that's okay.
So we're still working on getting started, folks, here. This looks like we ran into just a small delay, so stick with us here. And we are going to continue on, it sounds like, right now. So just a few seconds there, yeah. Just mistimed our hype build up there for a second, but that's all good. We're still ready to bring it inside of the game because we are going live.
Now do it.
There's the fly-through video. So now you know we're going live, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it here on the Kafe for the final matchup of the day between FURIA and Liquid. Fans are already live. We got the first one coming up in just a sec.
So deadpan, John. Man, you want to redo that? You want to? I'm just messing with you. But we're going to be in the ban phase now here for Team Liquid. They'll be removing our first offender, and it's going to be Thatcher, which is, well, right down the alley. That's exactly what we would expect here. Next offensive ban will come through, and you got a couple of different choices here. We see Flores a decent amount, and a couple of different odds and ends. Could also remove a hard breach, so we'll just have to see. In fact, it's going to be the Nomad, not one that we necessarily see all the time, but one that FURIA can definitely abuse when they go to their defensive side, or maybe they just feel a little bit more comfortable with Gridlock in the mix.
Considering the emphasis on the staircases on this map, for especially the upstairs takes here, it's a very useful tool to not have to flank watch in a lot of positions, so it's going to force that now out of our attackers.
Dude, I wish that I could just take the amount of stupid air jab spots on Kafe and just imprint them on your brain, John, because there's just some stupid ones. Like there's an air jab that you can put, there's a bullet hole air jab on the window for red stairs that if you go to that window that's right on blacktop and you shoot in the bottom left corner, a singular bullet, you can apply an air jab to that, and if anybody walks past it, it will literally blow them out through the entire window. And you can barely hear it. I mean, there's just so many little moments like that with those air jabs. So really, really difficult to try and work around, and luckily enough for FURIA, that's exactly what we're going to get, what we talked about earlier. Nomad out, Gridlock in to try and hold down these stairs wells.
No surprises with our final 2 bans either. Not really much to talk about there, as we've already mentioned previously why those 2 get banned out. Mira and Wamai pick up the litter there, so they will get removed from play. Aside from that, though, shouldn't throw off these lineups too much. Liquid bringing a very much expected form of utility here for their initial hold, which is going to be upstairs on the 3rd floor, of course. PSK to take some of this aggression early on with the MPX as well, so we'll get a bit aggressive with this in the smart glasses, fending off some of that early clear pressure, which is going to come in from FURIA. Aside from that, though, Toxic Babes, we've got the Malusi Banshees to slow down fast clears, and of course, the mitigation they can realistically bring, mainly focused on Nesk there with the Jaeger.
Yes, indeed. Also, PSK coming through here with the Warden, so we can see him down in the trenches later on in this round once FURIA starts gathering control of the map. Not going to have to worry about too many stuns, though. Does have to possibly consider concussions coming through from Fantasy, only stuns on Rare, but past that, does have the potential to see in through Miracle Smokes, and they do try and apply those to the site and work their way in via that method.
So FURIA officially spawned out as of a few moments ago here, working their way up to the top of the building now. A few members of Liquid are going to wait around these windows here and see if any opportunities are presented. So, okay, never mind, not going up the rappel, just going up the stairs, apparently, as they'll take initial control here over towards the red side and start to work themselves up. STK from FURIA going to be eliminated too by Palu, who works himself in through these pillar areas to be able to take him out. A second trade is found, though. This time it's FURIA striking through Fantasy, getting revenge onto Nesk and bringing the numbers back down to an even point, a 4v4.
Pretty interesting stuff here coming out from FURIA initially, but Palu take a little bit of damage inside of that opening engagement. They're going to lose Nesk for it, but luckily enough, they've dealt a really, really strong blow to FURIA, removing the Finka from play, no longer having extra health to give over to these teammates of STK, but past that, also won't be able to res anybody if they do end up going down, and Team Liquid still have control of all their defensive standpoints. Most importantly, this pixel position for the time being.
A lot of bullets ringing out, but not a lot of damage to follow it up. Flashes as well being dumped mainly onto Palu there, having to hide behind it. Nade rolls in, but looks like it is going to get either eaten up or deployed to a different part of the map. Won't end up affecting him as he finally gives up this position and falls back. FURIA will realize that, however, so they as well will break from their own current positions, get ready to move into the next phase of their execute, which relies pretty heavily on the cocktail rappel, judging from what we can see currently with about 2 players getting ready to lean down onto that.
To be expected with Rare coming through with the skeleton key of Buck, you're really looking to abuse that verticality and make things difficult to play around the cocktail area. So we'll see what they can potentially do. They only have a minute remaining, so they're going to have to be very precise about the way they go about this. Stuns in, and I think it's just going to be an aggressive front here from FURIA, expecting Rare to potentially swing in. It's going to be the Hibana instead as things will be traded out. Rare will swing in on the back end and trade that. Palu with one as well, as he'll get a double on the round. Team Liquid still ahead on man advantage, and they'll maintain that as they'll take out Rare. Miracle, it's all down to him. He won't even see the man inside of Freezer, but eventually takes him down. Luckily enough for him, some of that extra health coming through, and Palu will actually end up pokeballing him inside of Freezer. Liquid get away with round 1.
Knew he was low already, did not want to flirt around with these peaks in and out of the breach, just goes for the quick closeout there on the impact, and indeed it works out well. Liquid starting themselves out, dominant first round there. Bit straightforward in the way that they approach it too, just take a lot of gunfights against FURIA as they try to work their way in, and win enough of them to have the man advantage at the end of it.
I think that's been the big thing for Liquid for quite some time whenever you see, you know, the national competition for them, whenever they're playing up against another Brazilian squad or whatever. They really do tend to just put that other team on a leash. It's like, all right, you're going to play our game.
Yep.
We really don't care how you're going to go about this.
We're going to slowly drag you back to the site with us, and as soon as you get too close for our liking, just slap them out of there.
Yep, it's amazing stuff. I mean, even for like some of the ways that Team Liquid were able to maintain map control there with like Palu staying inside of Pixel for what seemed like eternity. It should have never happened. There were so many moments that FURIA could have potentially have exploited that and gotten an extra kill for themselves, but it was all for naught at the end of the day. Luckily, though, they have 5 more offensive rounds to try and right their wrongs.
Absolutely the case here. They're not necessarily going to go for the same retry, though. Away from the 3rd floor, down towards the 2nd here now as they attempt that. But of course, the extension will still be here, specifically inside of that bathroom. You can see they're still going to try to play aggressively out towards Cigar, as well as the usual position towards Cocktail, too.
Yes, indeed. We're actually going to have Miracle switch off of the gridlock, just not feeling as though that's doing enough at the current moment. So instead, he's going to bring the IQ. I think this is a really strong choice. This is one of those things that's worked its way in because of attacker repick, where you can drone out the building initially and see, oh, I don't know, Palu running around throwing black eye cameras everywhere. So you just switch on over to IQ and potentially get rid of that info game early on, making it a lot easier for you and your offensive members to actually work your way through the building unbeknownst to the defense. So see if FURIA can potentially get rid of those as they'll finally get to the top of Kafe and start things off like every team does by popping open these hatches.
Yeah, the Gridlock pick in the previous round was an interesting one from FURIA, too. We've seen quite a few teams, even inside of North America, trying to flirt and bring her in from time to time, potentially trying to see where she can fit into strategies. But just from what I've seen, at least, never really working out as well as these teams would have liked. She just doesn't block off the rotates as potentially well as someone like Nomad would do. And obviously, Nomad can't be played here, so just trying to extend out into that doesn't end up working out. So FURIA will have to look for that anti-hero in another department, unfortunately.
Indeed, makes things pretty difficult in certain circumstances, but we'll definitely tell you the track stingers can be annoying in certain situations as well. So now for Liquid, potentially some early frags coming here. Rather, not really early anymore. We're about halfway through the round now as there's Nitro cells primed across the board for Team Liquid. They're just waiting upon FURIA to misstep and potentially eat one of these from underneath. Nitro out and a kill as Fantasy will go down. PSK, also a lot of damage dealt to him, but he'll be able to hightail it out of there off of White Stairs and gives it up to FURIA because they've already gotten their frag.
Perfect timing on the rotate from Liquid, too. You can see FURIA just barreling down to clear out Cocktail, but they were a good 5 seconds off by the time that Liquid managed to get all of their players back down onto the second floor and into a safe position, now ready to defend the bottom floor hold here. Away from that, Liquid going to continue to maintain pressure here as once again up 1-0 against FURIA here. FURIA already down a player too. There's no real reason for Liquid to try and play aggressive at this point with the opening kill already in their pockets. They're just going to wait. This timer down already to 50 seconds, of course. And more importantly, wait for FURIA to make their next move.
Yeah, besides the verticality, FURIA don't have anything going for them. Nesk is going to just kill PSK. I don't necessarily know how that happened, but Ask might be able to potentially give them that man advantage yet again. It'll actually be a miracle to take down resets, and if this is the way that the round breaks down, John, it's going to be very disappointing to see FURIA get the first round like this. Follow will be able to get one. Smoke potentially stopping the plant, but it won't. Rare instead will get one. Nesk will rotate up Brown Stairs and get yet another as we go into a 2v2 post plant.
Palu has seen the white rotates and knows there's going to be top-down pressure. If he's more focused on catching the library player, won't work out, though. STK has the lead in this scenario. And now with Rare supporting from up on top, it's FURIA to take it with patience winning them that round. Just had to wait for the team kill, apparently, to equalize out the game. And then they had much greater capability to execute down through white.
I mean, man, if I knew that, I'd be champ already. This is ridiculous. I mean, not exactly the way you want to see Team Liquid start that off, but, you know, I guess they just got, like, the bad bullets out of the gun, you know? So things should work going forward for Nesk. Very unfortunate situation for him to start this off, but he did end up eventually finding his first kill. Was actually one of the initial deaths for Liquid in the first round, and obviously taking out PSK for FURIA's opener inside of round 2. They're going to head to Kitchen now, and we'll see what their setup starts to look like. Just from the operator lineup, it looks like they could potentially extend themselves over towards VIP on the east side, where we see a lot of smoke play with the deployable shield, but, I mean, Nesk does have that, oh my goodness gracious, FMG 9. I wanted to say F90 so badly because of, what's her name from earlier, Gridlock. But either way, I'm going to have him on deck with the SMG, so could potentially go for kind of a different look here. Don't necessarily have to play inside of VIP as hard because, well, you're not hampered by just having that shotgun SMG setup with the SMG-11 as a secondary. Instead, you can take some longer distance gunfights because you have that FMG-9 and the 1.5 that comes along with it.
FURIA is out and about for the third time in this half here, looking to now take the lead away from Team Liquid here. No surprises in terms of what Liquid has brought, especially considering we are downstairs now on the first floor of hold.
Oh, they're in.
To see the Maestro coming in, but they're not going to expect FURIA at entry this quickly. Rare bursting through, making mincemeat of PSK as he tries to go for the extended defense out behind the bakery counter. Will not work, as of course you guys saw. He goes down with no response. 0-3 in this game currently as well, so PSK continuing to struggle as we saw in the earlier matchup today too. FURIA, aside from that though, are happy to slow down the play now that they've been able to get bakery for pretty much free here. Waltzing right in, overwhelming PSK. And on top of that, still have a little over 2 minutes to play out the rest of this round. FURIA already lurching themselves forward well ahead of schedule to try and take control of this site. They need to get ready for it, execute a bit earlier, but the confidence on that swing from Nesk, man, just full commits there with his D key to walk right out and shut down the first member of FURIA. But they shut down one of Liquid's players right back at them. It's resets to now go down. That eliminates the Maestro. Any potential shots that would come out from the Evil Eyes.
Well, Nesk is going to be the only one in this position at the current moment, but he does have some support from upstairs, especially after Paulu drops down through the hatch. Potentially a Z-ping coming out for him as Rare is actually going to sledge Ask to death. I don't exactly know what happened there, whether he downed him or what, but either way, a nice shot here from Paulu. Potential to try and shut down the plan is it's only going to be the initial impact damage. Won't even down the player. Instead, it's FURIA to pick up the round and claim the lead for the very first time here on Kafe.
Yeah, FURIA just had Liquid's number right from the very beginning of that round there. Overwatch on nearly every single aggressive position Liquid could have played from, except for this one right here. Bit unfortunate, of course, for Handy, but aside from that, the round was pretty much flawless from FURIA there, waltzing right in. They don't even give much respect to the setup that Team Liquid brought to the table there, as they just bully their way into a round.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for FURIA, that they've gotten this lead, hopefully they can continue to build it. The offensive side of Kafe has always been somewhat difficult. You know, within recent history, it started to be a little bit more of a teeter-totter in the way that things tend to go. But as of right now, it's looking like FURIA have done a bang-up job of being able to secure these opening rounds here. At least, you know, for round 2's sake, not necessarily the case, but for round 3, definitely a lot better. A huge callback to what they did on Clubhouse up against Exit for their very first round. Extremely aggressive, right in the front door, take your gunfights, win them, and then work from that launching pad. They did it fantastic.
Time to see if Liquid can course correct, as they'll be able to return to, surprisingly, the only site they've been able to control for themselves, given the way that this game started out. Looked like Liquid was surely going to be able to negotiate the second or third site, but hasn't been the case. They've got to fall back to the third floor hold. Their only bastion of defense that has allowed them to be successful so far here on their Kafe play.
Yes, indeed. And now, out and about, want to see which way they want to try and potentially deal with this site setup. It looks like it's going to be pretty traditional in this way, as they'll move over towards the west side or blacktop, whichever you know it as, begin breaking down these windows, including Ticket with the sledge. A beautiful setup there for FURIA. They more than likely know someone's playing inside of Pixel, and they'll catch Nesk off guard. The window explodes on Ticket. Immediately, bullets are sent flying through as he goes down.
This is a much more solid FURIA we're seeing right now. If you compare it to the previous matchup, we saw the same style of aggression coming out when they played against Exit, but nowhere near the amount of entry-level success inside of that game. Obviously a very different map, so a very different style of play, but regardless, FURIA at the moment is waltzing right in as of these past 2 to 3 rounds. And look again, man. Fantasy getting himself a second, where he does ask for a bit too much here. Ask himself is able to trade that kill back finally after the 2 kills start for FURIA.
Oh, here it comes. Paulu was thinking about it there for just a second. Run to the bottom of white, try and kill Rare on Repel. Frag grenade out here as Askell back his way down white just to try and potentially keep himself safe. Some more smokes out here, trying to hold down these different ways that FURIA could potentially get out of Christmas. Worried about somebody trying to come through for Train and holding things down for the hatch, but obviously a far cry for Team Liquid's overall strategy at the current moment. They're trying to play this pretty close to the chest and see if they can potentially get a few FURIA bodies on the entry.
It's been very quiet after the initial 2 kills were picked up by FURIA here. Liquid does not want to take an additional risk here. They want to play this so close to the chest.
Nice.
Nicely played from Ask. Catching STK, not losing a lot of health in the process either. He'll be good for another engagement, and it's also good to throw out the last of his toxic waves very early on in the round, however. So there's still another minute to play with, about 50 seconds when that finally fades away. Smokes are going to obscure things as well as they try to wrap back around here. There is the angle for Handy, but he's immediately traded out, and no, unfortunately, we lost our observer, ladies and gentlemen, so stick with us here, and we'll get you the result as quickly as we can.
Oh, we're back!
There we go, we're back! Quick correction.
Miracle.
Good job, production.
He's doing stuff.
We're back into it.
They're locked in. Team Liquid trying to take the fight, but Miracle's going to be able to get some damage on the back end, though, as PSK can hit the shots. A little bit of damage out from the AR, but Miracle, he's trying to capitalize. 30 seconds remain. Has plenty of time. No more track stingers, and potentially the frag. Miracle finds it. He sees the head of PSK as an ill-advised peek comes through from Liquid, and now FURIA with a pretty strong lead.
3 rounds consecutively as well. Starts off with a seemingly small gap from Liquid that just snowballs into a lost round, but since then, it's continued to be fumble after fumble from Team Liquid, whether it's underestimating the aggression we would get out of FURIA on the kitchen take, or upstairs here as well, trying to throw themselves at Pixel early on against FURIA. Losing that player, trying to trade it back, they bring it down lower, but that player even stays too exposed, and now we go down to a 3 versus 4, where they just are not able to maintain, and FURIA slowly but surely bleeds their way into the site to secure that 3rd round.
That was very, very well done from them. Obviously, Team Liquid try and fend them off, especially for Ask, but it's just too much at the current moment. If the initial, things would have went Liquid's way, even the sense of, neutrality, like nobody died, it's a 5-on-5 situation, Ask more than likely has the potential to win them that round in that position, but there's just too much of a man advantage for FURIA at the current moment. And, when you have Miracle shooting like that as well, it's going to be really hard fought for PSK inside of that situation. So very well done from him to lock it down in the 1vx and give FURIA an extended lead.
Attack timeout for Liquid. Expected at this point in the game here, like we said, 3 rounds in a row for FURIA, so definitely a bit of a dangerous point to have reached. They will need to reassert themselves, figure out what exactly has gone wrong before they reattempt the bar hold here. Of course, banking off the success back from round number 1, the only round we've seen Liquid pick up so far. Hopefully, will now allow, with a reboosted strategy and some input from their support team behind them as well, to pick up a 2nd.
All right, you guys are going to want to pay attention to Nesk here and where he applies his Electro Claws, because if he does indeed go and put them downstairs inside of reading, then we're more than likely going to have Liquid trying to hold onto that area and forcing FURIA to clear that out. That way, Handy can actually get the wall open. Freezer is so very pivotal when it comes to a lot of the angles you want to try and abuse here. Trash Wall's also another one, but as you can see, that's open. That's just kind of a team decision. Some teams reinforce it, some teams just open it up at the bottom, some do head holes. You really never know, but for Liquid, it's going to be the head holes here, as well as for the single panel attached to the bar. So Liquid more than likely going to keep these walls locked down for an extended period of time as the entirety of Freezer is electrified.
Just to clarify real quickly as well for anybody who might have been confused about what you saw on the right side of your screen, defenders do not have the ability to repick. That is just a visual bug with the UI.
Well, actually, it's not. It is, but it also isn't in a certain sense. It's if they were on a certain operator inside the lineup before and then switched over to something else before it got locked in. So it'll show you what potentially the defense was thinking at a certain moment, which is kind of cool, but you can kind of take it with a grain of salt at the same time.
Yep, absolutely. So they're not repicking inside of the prep phase, just in case anyone is confused about that, because the attackers are the only one that are able to do that, hence why it's called
Attacker Repick.
Thank you. Let's move into this action phase now, though, as FURIA already making their entrance through the red hash. Liquid doesn't dare try to contest from the inside of Cigar. Instead, they'll do it from the bathroom as Resets goes for the race car big out against Fantasy, knocking him down and putting Liquid back on top here at the beginning of our 5th round.
That was a race car peak if I've ever seen one. That was a downshift right there. Drop it into 2nd and let it fly. My God, Fantasy gets removed from play. And now Team Liquid, they're trying to muster up something here in round 5. They need to pick up the pace as these rounds have slowly been slipping away from them ever since Nesk ended up murdering one of his teammates. And now PSK taking a little bit of damage. Nitro sells out some track stingers in here, but those are more than likely going to get destroyed quite quickly, as well as a drone after Miracle gets tagged up here. And Team Liquid, they've done such a bang-up job of maintaining their man advantage here. Nobody's dead. Everyone's fairly healthy. This is looking like a very solid round.
Away from that, it's going very quiet across the map here as Rare repositions himself to entry through bottom white, but Paul is right on top of that. Immediately slaps him down back to earth. Technically was kind of already there, but, just wordplay. As we continue to see FURIA falter inside of this 5th round here, looking good to already take the advantage past halftime, but maybe Liquid's going to be able to tie it up after all, if this is how they'll be able to play for these final 2 rounds here. The remaining members of FURIA, STK, Miracle at low HP, and Handy, going to try and make up the difference. They do burn Paulo out of position back there, but unfortunately not going to be enough damage to get them out into the open outright. Just has to back up into a different position further in a cocktail, and they'll be safe.
Oh, look how worried they are. These track stringers being destroyed by Paulo pulls all of the eyes of FURIA towards red stairs, and now he'll be able to just rotate back towards another staircase, whether it be up brown over to white stairs or what have you. More likely going to be fairly easy for him given the circumstances. Stuns in, but that's exactly what PSK thrives in for this environment. Nesk with 2 big kills to be expected out of him, so finally equalize his scoreline at 4-4. STK the last one alive and can potentially stop this flawless round unless Palu has something to say about it. He'll swing the other side of pillar, and STK will lose his noggin. It's a flawless round for the defense as they battle back off the tack timeout.
Liquid coming back into it in huge fashion after that one, playing the numbers game to its fullest extent, especially after they get the opening kill outright. That player able to duck away further down the white hallway, preventing any trades from FURIA. And unfortunately, that style continued throughout the rest of the round there. Liquid just using their numbers to bully FURIA away from it, putting them back on that leash that we were talking about at the beginning of the game here, where they had full control of it the entire time. Again, not needing to do anything fancy with it, didn't even need to go for those flanks necessarily, as you said. Just a player showing posture at the bottom of red was enough to psych them out, get them away from it, break up their attacking formation, and allow for Liquid to once again shut down the remaining players when they were finally ready to get aggressive.
Yeah, the amount of feints that work in Rainbow Six is insane. You know, whether you're able to play with audio or just tag something to get somebody to, you know, pull their aggression somewhere else just for a split moment, that's just enough time in the window for the defense to try and capitalize on really anything, whether it be getting rid of a utility piece or getting a frag. You can never really tell, but obviously inside of that round for Liquid, it was the frag department that pulled them so very far ahead in that one, as well as the potential roam that could have came through that really scared FURIA in that moment, going down to the last minute. Now for FURIA, though, they have to win this round in order to be successful on this side and prevent the 3-3 split. Really looking for that 4-2 here on the offensive half.
See if FURIA can lock that down, and they've got the best hope for it, considering the site we've gone back to. See members of Liquid, though, going to be holding a bit more presence upstairs this time, so making it a bit more difficult. As you can see as well from that top angle that was already opened up and trained, a bit more difficult here for FURIA to do that type of aggressive play they did in the last defense here. Resets already making impact against the entries as well. FURIA, just like the last round, losing their initial push as STK tries to bring the Amaru in for a bit of a treat here, but unfortunately she is shut down just as quickly as she enters the building.
Well, she's a treat, all right, but she's a treat for Team Liquid as she's immediately gifted over to them. Not even inside of the first 45 seconds. It was like 20 seconds in, and STK goes down inside of White Hall. And finally, even though STK's already been in the building, we're going to get the hatches destroyed on the roof just so we can actually work our way in and try and assist our teammates. Miracle transitioning down the stairwell extremely quickly on red side. Palu will be playing inside of Reading. And just to remind you guys, although it's a very extended hold right now for Team Liquid, the site is actually all the way downstairs. Nesk is actually going to end up getting punished by the recoil pattern of the MX4 Storm. He was so very close to the noggin of that member, but he'll hit it this time around. Miracle to go down, and yet again, it's looking like a flawless round from Liquid.
Liquid winning too many of these attached fights here. FURIA just not able to get themselves back together. You can see Handy trying to get himself back in position with the rest of his team over by pillars here. At least what remains of it. It's only him and Ray are left in the fray. Rare's just going to dash himself into Kitchen too, since there's not really much resistance in the site. Just one waiting in Kitchen, but more than ready for that type of a haphazard swing. He'll get the first kill. Handy will be ready for the re-aggression from Reset, so at least trades that back. But unfortunately, the 4v1 is far too much to handle. Palu immediately re-exchanges in the favor of Liquid. And they will take the edge. They will take the tie here at the end of the first half at 3-3.
Yeah, and right here, this is where the rubber meets the road, my friend. It's a 3-3 scoreline, and Liquid have gathered control of the offensive side. I mean, this could really go either way. I think FURIA had a very strong, offensive setup, but eventually Team Liquid was able to capitalize on a lot of the mistakes that they were making early with their very individualistic play style. But now with the defense on the docket for FURIA, I mean, obviously it's going to be quite different for them in the way that they can potentially win out these rounds, and well, they're going to be already throwing us for a loop initially, as we're going to be going to mining and dining.
Attackers have discovered the
A different flair coming out from FURIA. And we can already see that with the way that they've tried to play their attacking side too. Very in your face on some of these executes, as we saw with the bakery play specifically on the first kitchen hole, that really allowed them to snowball that into an outright round win. Aside from that though, Liquid finally able to get a grasp on things in the later rounds. They're putting themselves directly in the path of those clears, but still able to stop them with their kind of unpredictable positioning there. Made FURIA have to double, triple check things, and unfortunately it slowed them down far too much. Now allowing for a tie to come into the fold here. Liquid are going to look to take the advantage on the attacking side. Should mind you as well, in their game versus CAG earlier, they won 5 out of 6 of their attacking rounds.
Yeah, and Cyclops is not a slouch of a team. They are pretty damn incredible, as well as just extremely dynamic in the way that they can play the game, their overall ideas of what they can potentially get a hold of in a myriad of different ways, whether it be Monty or what have you. They've always been a very creative bunch. But either way here, FURIA got things set up inside of the building. Liquid dedicating themselves to their drones, one of the best droning teams in the entire world, as they do a very bang-up job of keeping these things alive and constantly gathering information that they're able to capitalize on. And we'll see if that happens here as the drone will go in for Ticket. And it's still alive yet again. Like we said, the mechanics of these drones from Liquid, time and time again, impress. STK will finally get that, but obviously that's going to give up his position inside of Pixel, and smart enough, he's going to back up into Whitehall just a little bit in case there's an explosive purd coming in quickly.
Both teams hunting desperately for an opening kill, and you can see that neither one wants to get aggressive until they have that advantage here. The attacker specifically needing it seems like, to justify any type of aggression towards the inside of this site, as most of them just hanging out on Rappel or right above Red Hatch right now, waiting for the all-clear signal to be sent out. STK, as you can see, has got a long angle all the way back into Cigar, too. If we see members of Liquid try to take that as their initial control point, he's hoping that he can maybe catch someone on timing, crossing those bullet holes, but so far, nothing coming in just yet from Liquid. And everybody on FURIA now falling back to the site as they've wasted over half the round.
Well, we've talked about the info game for Liquid, but they've actually been punished in that department this time around. Only 3 drones remaining, so hopefully those are in some pretty pivotal positions for them. But Liquid have at least been able to maintain their man count. It's 5-5 right now going into the last minute after FURIA have given up control of the top floor and trying to play it more into their site setup with nitro cells as well as some yokais waiting in the wings for Team Liquid to arrive. Still plenty of time to be able to try and muster up something though, and also with Sledge along for the ride on Palu, still have some other things that they can potentially access like Cocktail to really give Rare a hard time.
40 seconds still in play now, and for Team Liquid, they have a lot of work to do here, possibly an unsurmountable amount of it. We'll see here as they still have to work their way down, but it's a good start, thankfully, for the Liquid fans at home here. Ask able to knock out Handy, eliminate him. That's the Oryx, the more aggressive member of FURIA, going down here. But where is the rest of this push? Where's the rest of the play from Team Liquid? They are out of time. Less than 20 seconds remaining. They need to burst their way forward now, but they don't have the right to. They have to bully their way in. Miracle's more than ready for it with an M590 pump. Rest of the team trying to lean their way in from the red stairs drop here. But again, Miracle, more than prime for these shots. It's a triple for him as he holds at the edge of Train Yard and shuts down the attack for FURIA.
Very slow rolling offense from Team Liquid, and honestly I think it's a situation you were kind of leaning into earlier. Both of these teams did not want to be the one to make a mistake, and it forced Liquid to use up so much of their timer. They eventually start getting towards site at like 20 seconds remaining. Now they did have some verticality coming in from the Sledge upstairs that was built up a little bit prior to that, but past that, that really didn't even give them that much more of an advantage going into that offense. So for FURIA, they'll be able to claim the initial defensive round and the lead.
Things looking good for FURIA. It's a resurge after a little bit of a drop-off towards the end of the opening half here. This game truly has the potential to go the distance here. As Liquid's able to recenter themselves, as now they'll have to go for a lot of the same thing at the opening 2 minutes of this round. We're now going to go directly to the 3rd floor site, so a lot of the same game in the opening moments of the round here for FURIA to deploy against Liquid, meaning they're going to struggle with those same style of entries.
Well, now, what that does mean, though, is that we need to see a faster version of Liquid. We need to see that gunfight potential come through yet again because they have the ability. We have seen it time and time before. So now here for round 8, does Liquid potentially shift things over and try and take it to FURIA here on this second offensive round? It's going to be extended hold here from FURIA across the entirety of the map. We've got Fantasy all the way down to the bottom of Brown with a few bodies inside the mid floor, as well as some early aggression here towards stage and Christmas.
Pretty quiet opener, but Resets is going to take a bullet or two for himself as he's dropped down to nearly 50 HP. Thankfully, again, we still have the Finka as a kind of needed pick for a lot of teams right now. Ness is going to boost Resets HP right up top there, as they will need him later on in this round here. Before the hatches even get opened as well, just a little bit of playing around, it looks like, over here on the rappel towards red side is where he takes that damage. So a bit of an unfortunate start. Nothing the Adrenal Surges can't fix, however, as Liquid go right back into fighting shape and look for that capability to enter themselves in through this main red hatch. Unfortunately for them, there's going to be resistance no matter which way they try to approach it. Fantasy does sit directly below them over by the red stairs.
Absolutely, and also with Rare inside the mid floor here, they'll have a nitro cell that can potentially get the case down if they do get control enough to attempt a plan. STK looking to see if he can potentially cheese out the window player by just pre-firing towards the top of it, but won't be able to find much. Palu trying to play these angles towards his advantage, which would be, well, any FURIA member rotating out of the bathroom and having their ankles chopped off by an AR. So here for STK, he's going to make some new holes here to potentially try and pick up any Liquid members pulling themselves in through bar. The trash wall is soft, so they could use that later on into the round, just depending on what they want to do with their soft breach, but they at least have Christmas control for the time being.
STK just waiting for the first swings to work their way out, kind of preparing these
Nice.
pre-fired angles, but it's going to be Fantasy with a wild push out from Pixel. Nesk will easily catch that and get the first kill of the round, going for Team Liquid here. Toxic Babe's now going to start to be deployed by STK to prevent the swing into White Hallway after the Pixel kill went into the favor of Team Liquid.
Now with a minute remaining, Liquid, they've at least had the opening frag, but you still have to deal with quite a few different avenues that FURIA could potentially spoil them. I'll say this though, looks as though, oh wow, looks as though a Nitro, or rather a frag grenade, will pick up STK. The Nitro cell of Rare still on the board, but now FURIA, they finally hop two. They'll claim Nesk and Palu, but Resets will be able to at least grab one. Rare looking for the flank, knows the Claymore is here, and he's gonna get rid of it as soon as he potentially can. Able to destroy that, coming in behind the Liquid members now. Andy, he switched over towards Christmas. Some fair shots coming through from Liquid, but not enough to be able to take Rare down just yet. And he's going to try and swing for Pixel. It's a potential 2K here for PSK, but won't follow through just yet. Into the post plant now, and Rare's dead and gone, as Ask will pick him up.
Liquid able to negotiate a very important win for themselves here. Needed to get themselves on the right foot for this attacking side after things went awry with their early clear back in round 7. Things looking a lot better this time. Mainly again, though, FURIA being the ones to push out and give Liquid that initial kill. It's a lot of what it's coming down to right now to dictate the pace here. And more importantly, if Liquid seemingly has the confidence to push through with the rest of the round into the site there. Didn't see it back on round 7, but we get it back after they find that opener through Pixel on round 8.
Yeah, it also seems like a lot of teams tend to give those kind of situations to Liquid where it's like, oh, we haven't made an aggressive swing in a while. We're totally going to catch them off guard. And they swing and somebody's just holding the angle.
Like, oh, hi.
Yeah, hey, guess what? I've been standing here for a minute awaiting on you.
Hey, guess what? I shot you in the face.
Exactly, exactly. Discriminate against anyone, and we'll just take out anybody that wants to put their head in any hole where it's not supposed to be. And that's exactly what we see inside of that last round. Team Liquid, though, will try and shift some things up. Not really, though, as Resets is the only one around. We are going to have some disconnects happen from FURIA, so more than likely a rehost happening here momentarily. But, I mean, this has already been quite an interesting game. John, I want to hear what you have to say about this matchup as of right now, because we're at a dead heat.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually surprised FURIA, again, given the matchup we just saw versus Exit, is keeping up this closely with Team Liquid, as yes, indeed, guys, we are going to re-host that due to those disconnects there. So don't worry about that. That'll just be a few moments to remake the lobby really quickly, make sure we get all players back in. But yeah, Liquid here, once again, it's so strange how Liquid has like fallen behind in this matchup. That's been the most surprising part to me, because it starts like we talked about before, just like a little bit of a mistake, a team kill, kind of snowballs into a lost round. Okay, you guys will get over that quickly. But then they get steamrolled on their downstairs hold, back to the 3rd floor, where they also struggle. It's like, guys, what happened? Like, who flicked the wrong switch here for Liquid? Thankfully, again, this is a very centered team with obviously a huge amount of experience. So that tactical pause came in absolutely massive for them, I think, to kind of reset the strategy a little bit, give them a better idea about how to play. And again, a very quick correction. This is why a lot of people are looking at Liquid to be a team to win, because of their ability to adapt under pressure. When things look as bleak as they did with that comeback, coming back against them later on in the first half there, they were still able to give themselves a pretty respectable scoreline of 3-3, and are doing the same thing now by immediately trading out what was a pretty rough first round on the attack for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Siege is notoriously a game that's very difficult to try and adjust inside of just one map, just because of how little rounds you have on each side. You only have 6. So if somebody gets you over like by 2 rounds with one strategy, it's like, all right, well, they've already got 2. They're potentially going to get 1 more when they adapt. So now you're already, you know, at a loss. So that's exactly what we see happen to Liquid here. A couple of mistakes, like you said, just little minute ones. They happen every once in a while, a team kill or whatever. But for Liquid, it was very, very punishing. Fortunately enough for both of these teams, though, this tech pause is going to help them out quite a bit, as they'll both be able to talk back and forth amongst the bench, not the coaches, but it'll be a nice little moment to be able to see what both of these teams want to do with this really, really ludicrous scoreline in between the two. I mean, honestly, I did not think that we were going to have 4-4 between FURIA and Liquid after what we saw Liquid do to CAG earlier today.
Alright guys, well it looks like we do have most players back in the lobby, probably just testing to make sure we don't run into any further issues. A quick reminder folks that FURIA are not here in Charlotte, they are off-site playing from Mexico City, so we do have to make sure that the connection is as stable as possible here for the competitive integrity, as Liquid is of course on location. Anyway, it looks like both teams have ready back up, so should be good to resume this in just a few moments and see if Liquid can carry forward now that they have once again re-equalized the scenario, or will FURIA surprise us yet again as they've been doing seemingly throughout most of this matchup here and burst forward with the lead once more for themselves.
Well, hard to say, but luckily enough, we have a game to play out in order to find out for us as we're just awaiting this to be started once again. Just want to make sure that everything is working handedly before we hand it back over to you guys at home and allow you to come back in and peep what's going on here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Luckily enough, though, it won't be too long as you guys see the famous 6 on your screen, and we're back with FURIA versus Team Liquid.
It's going to be a reading room hold from the looks of things coming in from FURIA. We'll move away now from the third floor play as things obviously didn't pan out too well for them there. This will be the other form of the second floor hold as we already saw them play out towards trains back at the first round of this half. That's the extended play up on the third floor that allowed for them to really just waste most of Liquid's time bank back on round 7 there and unfortunately leave them with no real room to execute. That's why we saw them hop into window, try to push it forward there, but most of them ended up walking directly into a single M590s. That went pretty much as you'd expect with no time to really execute.
Yeah, that gun's not exactly fun to swing into when you really don't know that it's there, as we've seen time and time again throughout the history of Rainbow Six. But now for FURIA, as John was saying, we're headed towards the mid-floor. It's reading as well as a dining or fireplace hall, whatever you call it. I always call it dining. It's shorter. You know, I always go with the shorter things. That's what you really should do if you guys end up playing with a stack or whatever. But either way, FURIA is going to be setting things up, and it's going to look actually quite similar to what they were doing for mining, at least with this singular reinforcement here, just to potentially shut down some angles coming through for like red stairs or anything for pre-fires. Rare's also going to lock up the freezer wall upstairs, so whenever they do apply the reinforcements to that, they'll just be immediately electrified. So pretty good circumstances as of right now for FURIA's defensive setup.
FURIA will continue to exercise as much aggression up here on this third floor hold as possible, as we were just mentioning. And for Liquid, what have they brought to clear it? Well, mainly Lion is going to come into the fold here for PSK. Is going to be a hugely important piece of this, especially once they're able to deploy enough utility, either through nades or other forms of it, to flush these members out. They want to be able to properly track where they are going, and that's a good way to do so, is you just knock their heads off. Don't need to track much after that, with a booming start to this round for Liquid as they take out Fantasy.
Yes, indeed. A solid start, but hopefully an even better round to follow. And yes, Ask, he'll find his mark a second time. Everyone seemingly peeking this man all the way out on the blacktop side. What is happening? Guys,
There's no
FURIA.
They had a drone right there, too.
FURIA. Guys, no,
that's
not like
probably
this.
how they got both of them, was they just didn't see that drone somehow.
Oh, that's so unfortunate given the circumstances. And now FURIA more than likely down around unless they have something serious to say about this. One member rotate back over towards Shaiko's spot, as well as Rare trying to work his way up red stairs. But as we know from Liquid, especially with a man advantage like this, they're going to take their sweet time. They are not going to give you a kill at this current moment. They're going to drone this all out, try and see where these remaining members are, get a head count on site, and then execute from that moment. I mean, just look, John. They've got 9 drones.
The only one that's been taken out here fairly early on in the round. We did see a second one finally eliminated there as Liquid does come down to the final half of the round, but they're not too worried about the time bank right now, given the massive advantage they have here. A 5v3, Rare already brought down to a pretty low point on his HP as well here. Liquid, it's just a matter of caution to make sure they don't overstep and run into those mistakes we saw in the first half here. More than anything is why we're seeing the hesitation from Liquid, just making sure they work their way down the checklist. Absolute impunity for every detail here.
Well, Miracle peeking Palu out from White Stairs almost claims his life. And STK, critical shots as Ask gets a triple kill now. He's doing it all for Liquid in the current moment. Yellow ping out here on resets. They know he's on red stairs. A potential swing for FURIA to try and get themselves back into this round, but it's more than likely ill-advised. Look at all the HP that these members on Liquid have. So hard to try and take a gunfight in the current moment, and Liquid are looking for another flawless round here. Miracle tries to swing through. It's going to be a second flawless round. You could call it 3 if you wanted to, given that second one that almost happened, but we'll just call it 2 as we will get that flawless through, and Liquid will take the lead.
And that will force the pause out from FURIA, it looks like, as well. They'd call for it in chat. We got the thumbs up from our admin squad, so we are going to see both teams have the coaches' mics enabled, and that means they can talk to each other, of course. So for FURIA, what can they do here? What exactly can they throw at Liquid inside of the early, mid, and even late round scenario to try and stop what seems to be a domination spree of Liquid?
The big thing is that I wish that they just stopped throwing themselves. That's what I really wish.
Yeah, that last round, a bit of a gap there with the double window peak, but
if
that's the problem, right? Is it's like one or two players getting aggressive at the beginning. That slight advantage is all Liquid really needs. So they're just sitting back and waiting for it every single round.
John, let me tell you something.
Don't give it to them.
Yeah, that's all. Well, you know, easier said than done for Liquid. That's
just take a few steps back, bud.
Slow down, bud. Slow down there. You're going over the speed limit.
Like, obviously, there's more to it than that.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part,
at least step one.
Right. Like at least inside of that last round, I think you have a banger of an argument because it's like, what the hell are you guys doing just swinging stage like this?
At least check for the drone.
Yeah, I mean, but it is what it is. I mean, it's to be expected, and honestly, that's more than likely why Ass got that kill. I mean, like, the drone could have been there, yeah, but he more than likely was still staring at it like, yeah, they'll swing it again. Like, because they've been doing it the whole game. That's how these teams have been trying to refrag, is like, somebody dies, a random wall, door, or something explodes, and there's bullets flying through it trying to claim another kill.
I think the other potential mistake FURIA may be making right now is just assuming they can get one over Team Liquid, when how familiar Liquid should be with FURIA, given that they both obviously scrim and play each other, assumably inside of their same region fairly often.
I would like to say this really quickly. I think that it was more of a wake-up for Liquid once that initial tac pause came out, because they were like, oh, we got to slap ourselves awake here. FURIA's starting to run it up on us, and we cannot allow them to continue to pick up these rounds. And this right here, this 5-4 scoreline is why everybody has been talking about Liquid. They're the talk of the town right now here at the Charlotte Major, and we expect them to continue on. Well, we'll have to see if they can potentially get past FURIA first, but definitely a good shot at that, at least for the given circumstances at the current moment. The Liquid, though, finally out and about yet again here for round 10. After the tac pause goes away from FURIA, they're going to choose Fireplace Hall and Reading yet again here to try and get one over on Liquid, as it's been pretty hard fought through the last couple.
2 more rounds is all Liquid need to shut this one down and give themselves a dominating lead in the group here versus FURIA, as well as putting FURIA into a very bad position with 0 points to walk home with here today. Hopefully not going to fall upon them. If they can push it to OT, things will look a little bit brighter. However, it is not looking like that is necessarily possible right now with the way that Liquid is handling, especially these earlier rounds here. As we talked about it in the pause, as long as Liquid get that opening kill or two, they are usually in a solid positioning to shut down the rest of the round without too much of an issue. And there's that potential lead up towards it. Miracle trying to flirt with some aggression over towards the bottom white stairs door. Thankfully, is able to back away from it, though, before things get a bit too dodgy.
Well, Palu remembers, doesn't he? Try and swing me off white again, why don't you? I'm going to deal as much damage as I potentially can and almost claim Miracle for myself. Already down to about 50 HP's worth, and for FURIA, slowly back things off. But good news for them is that they still have a very, very solid man count, so they can continue to take gunfights just in a more controlled environment, and that's exactly what they get. Handy inside a freezer will take out resets as he tries to swing in through Cigar.
Half the round gone now. FURIA has done a good job of keeping themselves relatively anonymous throughout most of this one, as well as holding back the tide from Team Liquid. But now Liquid, they're getting feisty. They know they need to push this forward and try to push the envelope a bit closer towards the site. So they'll start to take a bit more of an aggressive stance here as we head towards the final minute of play. It'll work out, allowing them to trade out that kill, bringing us down to a 4 versus 4 here. Now putting them in fighting shape possibly to push towards the rest of this execute as well. It is going to be a little bit spread out, so a little hard to follow for both teams here. We can see the communication get a bit chaotic inside of it, but it seems like Liquid have a good idea about how to approach this, especially now that Palu moves into Train Yard and gets free control of it.
I mean, look at the way that Team Liquid uses this utility to force FURIA back to play safer pastures. And now they've gotten control of mining as well as potentially Train, that they could try and move through and get a plant down. Multitude of these FURIA members around the space, though. Rare's going to be all the way downstairs, more than likely trying to play prevent built for this fireplace hall. Palu, he'll find Fantasy. He tries to cross here inside of Red 90, get rid of the Banshee, has one close, frag grenade in hand, won't do much with that though, as Handy trying to hold the backspace. He'll take down Ask, and that's a triple kill for him and the case. Can he continue on here? It's gonna be a plant attempt here from Nest, a flick from Handy, doubles back over, he downs one, and the other kill will be picked up by STK. FURIA will bring it back and tie us up yet again at a 5-5 scoreline.
Handy, the guardian of the hallway there, shuts down 4 in a row and single-handedly keeps his team in the game now, tying us up yet again. FURIA not faltering just yet, and Liquid not finding that siren song they need to push themselves toward map point either here. This is still a very close game here, and either team can take it, as finally FURIA find that time-wasting capability once more against Team Liquid and are able to make them fluster themselves in the final moments of the round, handing over, no pun intended, that great play capability towards Handy.
Yeah, it's super difficult to try and dance around Handy's name, to be fair. The amount of times I wanted to say handedly every time that I mentioned this man. But past that, Team Liquid, pretty rough end of the round there, especially for Palu. More than likely felt like he could have gotten a lot done there. He got that initial frag, steps up into Red 90, but isn't aware of the rotations that FURIA have around the area for reading and is immediately punished. For Liquid, they're not able to get to his saving grace quickly enough to actually, try and capitalize on what was going on in that situation, move in the back end, that kind of stuff. But Palu's already dead. Ask swings in. He's dead to Handy now as well. It's just a little bit too mistimed, and they end up getting punished for that. But luckily enough, they're not out of it just yet here. Well, this is looking more and more like overtime by the moment.
Slow lead up yet again here as FURIA spread their positions out to ad infinitum here. A huge horizontal play coming in from them as they do not want to flirt with the upstairs play. It just generally seems like Liquid is able to negotiate too much control over that. We've already seen them play into it. They want to throw a bit of a curveball at Liquid here, force them to change up their own pacing and fall into something new. And something quite new we're going to get just in terms of the operator lineup from Team Liquid here. The Osa, of course, out from Nesk. It's not the only big change-up we're seeing. You see once again those track stingers come back out as well for PSK. And the outside deployment here as well is going to allow them to have a bit of a battleground, especially once they get that left wall open for themselves. It'll be quite useful. We'll see the X-Kairos 2 pellet charge just used to get rid of the laser gate, and now they'll be able to open up the inside of Prep Kitchen for themselves.
Yeah, this is called anti-rice swinging. You're just not allowed to swing rice at all. You want to come in prep? No. You want to go into rice? No, not allowed. Osa's just going to sit here on a shield and make it damn near insurmountable. I haven't been able to get rid of that single panel that's holding up part of that angle just yet, but that's also going to allow Liquid to transition into the actual bakery area without having anybody bearing down on their positioning. So for now, Liquid more than likely pretty comfortable with how this round has been going. They're going to start working things towards the top floor, and of all things, Palu will indeed use a Gone 6 to pop one of the hatches upstairs and get himself into the building.
So I had to like whack it like 25 times or something like that. So.
That's very true. You got me there. I mean, how many mags of that LMG do you think it'd take? 1.5?
I don't actually know. That might take a while. But
also, just don't do that.
Yeah. Like, I've seen. There was like a game a while ago where like Oxygen had to do that at one point. Like 3 players just panic standing on top of it, trying to patch it over because they didn't bring the proper utility. That was a good time. But anyway, back into this matchup here. As we've got FURIA and Team Liquid battling it out in a true neck-and-neck fashion as well here. Trying to get creative with the nades to see if they can get the electric claw from down below. Nitro responds to it, gets a bit of a panic cancel on that nade. He's going to open up at different angles. He knows that first one didn't strike true, so hoping that a different position maybe will yield some luck, and it will. Beautifully played out by the Finka currently on the attack. Palu with some beautiful stuff there, and will now open up a pathway, of course, for Ask to open up this hatch.
Oh, but this is going to start getting pretty risky pretty fast, John. STK with the initial frag in this round, and it goes down at 31 seconds. Liquid have got to get in this site, and they've locked each other up on the smokes. Have they dropped in Freezer yet? They haven't. So much damage coming through as Miracle continues to add to this, especially for PSK. There's no way that he makes it through the smoke. Ask will drop down. He's immediately bodied. Yet another one out here, and another body to fall. FURIA, they're getting away with so much. Team Liquid, what has happened? They've fallen apart at the seams, and although STK will go down, it is surely a FURIA round, as they have guaranteed themselves overtime and points here at the Charlotte Major.
What a massive and almost sudden comeback from FURIA. It seemed like Liquid had full control of this series and was going to warpath their way right up to 7, but no longer the case. FURIA resurges for the second time in this matchup here, and has now taken the lead away from Liquid, as well as having the bonus round here to try and close this one out 7-5 and give them that additional point in the group.
And they want this so very bad at the current moment, and that's more than likely why you're seeing the selection of the site. We've seen FURIA go to Fireplace Mining Room earlier on, and that's where they found their initial success on their defensive end, so could potentially get that yet again. For Liquid's sake, I really hope we don't see 3 people die to the same shotgun inside of Train, but I mean, when it came down to it, that was really their only option at that moment. The good news is for right now, though, is it's a clean slate walking into this. They know, relatively speaking, what the setup's going to look like, so the execution and overall clearance of the top floor and everything else in between should be a little bit sharper.
See if that will indeed be the case. It's do or die time for Liquid here now on their own clear. Lion will stay in the fold, but the rest of the lineup has gone back to much more normal pastures here, as they're no longer contending against the kind of awkward style of play compared to the rest of this map. The horizontal clear of the first floor is going to be one repick, but it's relatively minor in scope. Just a thematic change the way they're approaching soft breach here, as they'll go from a sledge to a buck. Away from that, all the initial picks are going to be locked in.
Yes, indeed. The LNG meta still playing strong here at LAN, as well as PSK bringing in the Lion with that V308. It's a pretty deep magazine on that as well, but not nearly as many bullets as 100. So for Nazk, he'll be manning Finka here for the time, as well as Resets piloting Zofia, so have a Frag duo in and potentially can clear out this top floor pretty quickly, especially with the FURIA members on an initial glance. You have them back towards Cocktail at least, but past that, really not too much going on. And as for Liquid, it's back to basics for them. Stick to this drone game early, try and clear out your initial moments and spots, and well, one they actually really need to pay attention to. Pixel at the current moment with STK in behind the deployable shield. Doesn't seem like he has very many things to actually utilize in this area. In fact, John, he doesn't. There's no Amai discs, there's no ADSs here inside of this lineup. A single frag grenade or impact separates that shield and its grave.
Gonna very quickly give up that position as well, as we would kind of expect right there. Can't maintain that for very long without any pressure from the ADSs or my discs. Has to play away from that one, especially with the drone spotting out his entire position too. Just has to give that one up, but he'll prepare that jump out, of course, over on the white window that you guys probably caught about 30 seconds ago now, and more than that, just kind of be prepared for the Pixel White Hall as well as the rappel swing into the hallway. Should be gifted with that opportunity to fight, and it's certainly looking likely the build-up of players we have from Liquid right now. But again, trying to work towards a staging ground. However, Fantasy able to negotiate that first kill deeper into site territory, and immediately after that kill, it looks like every single member of the third floor extension is just gone right back to site.
They've already got their frag, and they know that Liquid have to try and work their way in here. If they're able to close down all of the entry points, this could be fairly easy for them. But the problem with that as well is they still have to worry about this verticality. Miracle, though, he's a miracle worker indeed. Gets himself onto red and transitions back downstairs. Potentially a Nitro cell waiting in the wings, but in fact, no. Already using that earlier on, but does have that initial shotgun. Able to try and tag people through the floor if they do have a pretty solid ping. Be able to get rid of the Evil Eye for reset's sake, and a potential plant happening soon for Liquid.
Ness trying to rotate himself to the bottom garage entrance by White Stairs here. Miracle, meanwhile, on the other staircase, ready to take the challenge. Gets hit a little bit there by the stun charge, but is still able to negotiate the fight. Thankfully, because he's on the M590. Ness will exchange the trade, now completing that rotate over towards White, but Rare too quick on the exchanges here. It's FURIA with so much control by red side. PSK gonna take some of it away, but it's just not enough. 3v1, everything comes down to PSK, who's been struggling here today as well. He could become the hero for this squad inside of this round, but it was not meant to be. Handy gets the last kill, and it's FURIA to pick up a victory for themselves, giving them 3 points on the day.
7-5 for FURIA, and a stunned Liquid here to cap off the day for day 1 in Charlotte. What a game in between these two, but FURIA, they got it done at the end of the day. Initially, it looked like Liquid were falling to their own devices, but eventually FURIA shone through and showed just exactly how capable this team is. And well, now going forward, it's going to be pretty hard fought amongst a lot of these different teams.
A very, very close match, regardless of the way you look at it here. Liquid, unfortunately, falling just a little bit too short on their attacking side. Despite the success that we saw them have on that side earlier today versus CAG, it was not enough, and they take a loss today as well. A chance for redemption will be sent to them tomorrow, but for now, we're going to go to a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. When we do come back, we'll be breaking down this game, as well as the entirety of Day 1 here at the Major.
15 seconds left. 10 seconds to go.
There are civilians out there who need us. They can't fight back. They can't escape. And they can't heal their own wounds. That's our job. And we're the best at it. By being careful and compassionate, we can make the world a safer place for everyone. We do this to be of service. And we can't afford to be complacent. When we go out there, we work twice as hard to protect others. Whatever we have to do, we put the people first.
Get them out of here!
That will be our focus. With unwavering diligence, we defend. And we get to say that when Wolfguard is on the field, things will be different.
Sad, bro.
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Charlotte Major. Day number 1 has come to a close here. But that doesn't mean we don't have anything to talk about, of course. Let's break down that initial matchup that you guys just saw. A bit of a surprise ending to it. I personally thought it was going to go by the way of Team Liquid, but the pause is giving a huge boost of confidence to both Liquid in the middle of that matchup, and then more importantly to FURIA at the bitter end of it, as they were able to launch themselves forward into a winning position, not even needing overtime to do it as well, getting it done inside of that final round of regulation at 7-5.
Yeah, it was a tough call and a multitude of different moments there between these two, but finally FURIA able to edge out Team Liquid at the very end. And for Liquid, I mean, it's going to be a very hard game to go back and watch. There was a lot of mistakes for them, especially early. I think they tightened up the ship there for the tail end, but that's when FURIA was already on fire. And, you know, Liquid just a little bit less than in that current moment and able to get one over on them. And honestly, that's the difficulty of best of ones as well, is you only have that one map. They can't just think, oh, you know what, we'll get them in the next one, guys. We have a better understanding. We feel like we can potentially do this. But, I mean, FURIA, they played lights out, especially in these big rounds like this where you have that desync from Liquid inside of Red 90 with Palu going for the swing and then Ass coming in behind, also getting bodied by Handy. It's just so very difficult for them at the current moment. But, again, very, very hard fought.
There's two main things that Liquid need to figure out after playing in this game. First of all, what the heck happened between rounds 2 and 4, and how did we see them suddenly turn the game around so much from that point forward? And more importantly, moving on from that as well, how do they successfully manage to get their third floor access without losing the first 2 minutes of the round, as we saw a few times as well? Really struggling to get that initial pressure in without losing the large majority of their player base. Here's the stats, of course, are seeing an improvement in that KOST department that we were talking about at the end of the last match from FURIA. Really only slightly, the stats actually look very similar to the outcome of the previous matchup there, with Miracle on top, Handy right behind him at 11 and 10 kills.
Well, the funny thing for FURIA is it's almost as if they're consistently, you know, relying on each other to do certain things in certain
which is
rounds,
like a good
right?
thing.
Yeah, it is, because
that means we don't have like this top-heavy issue where you're always relying on one star player.
You mean that right there?
Yeah,
With Palu at a 92% cost and a loss for a 7-5? Yeah, I think you got a pretty good argument there, my friend.
Absolutely the case. So it's worked out well here for FURIA. Although, again, the circumstances definitely are going to warrant a review, not just for the teams in play, but I think for quite a few of the other teams that have been here in the tournament as well. Regardless, though, guys, that match is now closed out. And like we said before, that also brings us to the closing moment of day number 1, where we can review everything that has gone down so far throughout this first day of action. Stokes, what's your highlight here for day number 1?
Oh, man, that's a really, really tough ask. I would have to say some of the younger teams coming through and playing extremely well. For me personally, you know, NA boy, I'm very, very happy for Astralis today. I really, really am. You know, coming to international competition for the very first time, and not only that, but claiming both victories on day 1 bodes extremely well for their future here, and especially with Liquid not exactly looking great inside of that game. I mean, potentially tomorrow, things could get really weird, guys.